Yay! Level 3! KSP, Kerbal Space Program. Here's my moon rocket. You can see my moon lander there on the top, and then that's my lifting module. I have that nuclear engine there in the middle, that's the skinny one, so I can burn a lot in space just to move into orbit. Taking off, typical rocket, stage it like I always do. Lots of lift, not a problem, like plenty of lift. This was not, my problem was not here. In fact, I actually end up jettisoning an engine with a lot of fuel in it before I land on the moon, which is super sad because I actually barely make it back to Kerbin. We're talking like microscopic amounts of fuel left when I make it back. So this is my second moon attempt. The first time I crashed. I'll have an outtake of that at the end. Just running into orbit here, using as much of my big rocket as I can to push me out as far as I can, basically, because that's what those rockets are good for, is powerful short bursts. It's about empty now, so I'm going to use it one more time to push out my orbit, and then I'm going to drop it here. I have everything in here just to show for anyone who doesn't know how to do it. Basically, I super fast edit and cut through everything really quickly, but you can see it's not that hard. You just got to use gravity. Okay, so now I'm almost out in orbit. I need to push out the opposite side of my orbit through the planet there, so that's what I'm doing. I'm using that nuclear engine, which is super fuel efficient. That's why you use it. It burns at really low speeds, but the fuel lasts forever. So it's going to be my primary rocket to get me out to Mun. I'm pretty sure I don't even empty it. I don't think I burn it all. No, I don't. That's what I said at the beginning of the video. I dropped this rocket with quite a substantial amount of fuel in it, which is really, really, really sad, considering how hard I had to work to come back with how little fuel I had. I had to get like the amount of cleverness that I had in this mission is mind-boggling. Because I should have just gave up and restarted because I ran out of fuel basically. But I had a really clever solution that just happened to work out because of timing. All right, so now I've got an orbit, and now that I have an orbit, I'm going to use gravity to slingshot me out to the moon so I don't burn as much fuel. That's cool. I'm glad I did it, but it didn't really help me much. Like I said, this engine is very fuel efficient. That's why I use it in space. I make it really, really far on this engine. The one downside is it burns really slowly, so your burns for your trajectory adjustments are really long. Like, what is a normal 1 minute burn, maybe with a different engine, is like an 8-minute burn with this engine, so you have to plan out a lot farther ahead. Okay, so here's how you work your trajectories. I use the flight computer to calculate the gravity and, you know, what I need to do basically in order to get to where I want to go. Now my orbit is really, really, really crappy. Basically, I should have given up and restarted here because my orbit should be 90 degrees equatorial orbit, because that's where the moon orbits around the planet, is around the equator. And I'm at like a ridiculous angle. If you see, I'm way, way, way above the orbit of the Mun. But my plan here is that if I can just get close enough, I'll use Mun's gravity to pull me back in. That's my plan here. So I'm hoping that see, there we go. I realized that I can get a trajectory close enough to Mun, because you can see Mun on the orbital path out there. It's right in line with my trajectory if I burn now, so that's why I launched when I did. I waited for the moon to kind of be on the dark side of the planet, because I knew that I was going to be using the dark side to shoot me around, since it was daylight. Basically, I just watched in time-lapse where the moon would be in a good position. I didn't actually know this would work as well as it did, to be honest. I got kind of lucky. I just kind of guessed. Just kind of logically, I knew that I was going to go around the backside of the planet to accelerate, because it wouldn't use as much fuel that way. So I knew that I would have to be behind the moon, because I would shoot past it, and then it would catch up to me, which is what I'm doing. I'm going to shoot ahead of it, and by the time I get out to where I'm shooting, it'll be there. And I'm going to kind of clip the top of its gravity, and it's going to allow me to pull myself in. The reason the computer's freaking out here is because my trajectory is not really known. Because I'm like struggling between Mun's gravity and Kerbin's gravity, so it doesn't really know what's going to happen. So I timescale forward, because I kind of have an idea of what's going to happen just from when I set my course originally. Alright, now that I'm further out, I'm basically halfway between Kerbin and Mun now. You can see my little ship there. I'm now gonna push my ship down towards Mun so that I'll grab more gravity and have to work less hard once I get closer. What I'm trying to do now is just maneuver my ship so that when I do hit the gravity, I'll have a tighter path closer to Mun, so that I'll have to burn less fuel to enter the atmosphere, which really doesn't have an atmosphere, but I don't know what else to call it. Again, I leave all this in. I'm super fast time. Like, this took me probably 2 hours to do, but we're on like incredibly fast time right now. I think times 8. Plus I edited as much as I could with like that was redundant. I didn't skip anything, but just like me editing these tracks, like I readjust these tracks like many times, so I don't leave all of the adjusting in there because it's just stupid. Like, no one cares. But I just leave a little bit in just to show how it works. If you want to watch again, see how I do it. It's all about using gravity. You got to just grab the gravity. Like, it's really easy to grab Mun. Like, see how terrible my orbit is, and I can still get into the... Like, this whole flight was just complete foobar from, like, the beginning. From takeoff to finish, I fucked up monumentally. You're gonna see another fuck up that I had that just totally ruins everything, and I can't even believe that I succeeded. I haven't realized yet my mistake. I'm still on my trajectory, getting closer and closer to Mun. I'm just kind of nudging it in the direction I want to go, using time acceleration combined with thrusting at the right moments. You can see I'm arcing closer and closer to where Mun's going to be. The idea is the closer I can get to it, the more its gravity will slow me down, because it'll pull me into a spin around it. There we go. I get so close now that I have an orbit. So I know that all I have to do is push until that dotted line becomes my actual line. So I'm pushing. I'm entered the gravity now. I'm in my arc. Still push. No, not pushing again. Now I'm waiting to push. Watching the little timer. Slowing down time until I get closer. And then right at the right moment, I thrust. Now. So now I'm thrusting. Burning. Just keep burning. Shifting. See, I'm in the gravity. I'm arcing around the Mun. I'm pushing myself towards Mun though, so that the gravity takes hold of me, and now it's grabbed me, and now I'm in orbit. So I can stop thrusting, or burning. Alright, now that I'm in orbit, it's easy peasy. All I gotta do is shrink the orbit to the planet. Not a problem. Just go to the far end, because you always want to shrink the closer end, obviously, not the end farther away, because it's gonna cost more fuel. But this engine, again, has a lot of fuel, and I don't even use it. I see, look, it's got about 1/3 of a tank left. That's a shitload of fuel in this mission. Just a fucking ridiculous... Okay, so now I'm landing. So now I don't even need to burn anymore. Because I know that I'm going to have to use a lot of fuel to slow down. And I kind of wish I'd used this engine to slow down more in space. This was my huge mistake, right? Okay, so I'm approaching the planet. And instead of using this engine to slow down a lot... Which really, I guess it wouldn't have helped me, because I couldn't take this, and once I enter the, like, the atmosphere of the moon, it's not really an atmosphere, but once I enter about 20,000 meters, I can't have anything close to me, because it could potentially bump into my ship when the gravity holds, so it's, at this point I'm ejecting it just for precaution's sake. I don't want it near me. But shit, go back. I need to re-commentate. If you go back in the video, I just realized I'm out of RCS fuel because I didn't lock the tanks on my lander, and so it burned those tanks first, and the big massive tank on that piece of my ship that I just dropped was like half full. So now I'm like super pissed because I have no RCS now, which means I am only on primary thrusters, which for landing sucks because you want to use your RCS as much as you can here because it's more precision. It's finely tuned. It's better for slowing you down, really. I just royally screwed up. I should have restarted my mission right there. Like, I should have just given up. I should have said, screw it. I have no RCS. I'm primarily on my main thrusters, which sucks too because these are the only fuel tanks. Like, this is all the fuel I have to get back. This is it. This is all I have left is that big tank in the middle and the 2 little fuel tanks. These 2 little engines have to carry me all the way home. And I have to waste my fuel to take home to slow down my descent so that I don't crash. This is just like a monumental fuck up. Monumental that my RCS is gone. All those little tanks on the side, completely worthless because they all are empty. I was so mad. Like here I wanted to give up. I was like really defeated. Because I'd spent so long. Yeah, I'd already spent like half hour moving it out here. The hardest, whatever. I should have restarted because it's way easier to land. It's harder to get back. Anyways, I proceed forward thinking I'm gonna make it back because I know that there's no real gravity on the moon, so lifting off won't take that much fuel. Like look right here, just slowing down, I actually reverse direction and start heading away from the moon, just from braking. And I'm using like no thrust, so now I have to like fall again, like gravity grab me and slow me down, or pull me down again. I wasted fuel basically, because I slowed down too much. Everything I do is a mistake. It's amazing that I succeed. Okay, so I landed. Yay! I flipped the camera around a lot there because I'm super excited. I'm like flipping out, turn on all my lights, lower my ladder so my little, because if you see my pod's way up high, my little guys would fall. Okay, so they climb down the ladder and now he's on the moon. I jump around and play for a while. I realized that he runs out of, you can't have more than one guy out for some reason. I couldn't get another guy out of the ship. I don't know. But, he ran out of juice. So I realized that I have to jump to get on the ladder because it's a little bit higher than he is, and jumping on the moon is kind of fun. So I jump and grab the ladder and get back in. Actually, I don't know if I get back in yet with this guy. I might play with him more. I take another guy out though with more gas because on the moon the gravity pulls you back down, so you run out of gas. Then okay, there I take a screenshot, play around. Climbing around on my rocket just for fun. Alright, he goes back in, take out another guy. Oh, first I think I was gonna leave here, and then I thought, did I open the parachutes on the side when I came into the moon? I couldn't remember if I did or not, so I'd take another guy out just to check, because those side mounted parachutes can be repacked. So in case I did open it, which it doesn't look like I did, but I realized here like the last second that I'm gonna double check again before I take off, and just screw around on the moon more, just because it's my first time I've landed without crashing. Just jump around and smack his face into things. I like how he never lands on his feet. Like, these Kerbinauts are the worst moonwalkers in the world, and like he just drags across the ground forever. This is at like super accelerated time, so he was dragging across the ground for a good 10 seconds there. But jump around some more. I checked the parachutes, they were all fine. If you notice, I have 4 parachutes. I have 1 on the top, and then I have 3 mounted to the side. I just went for overkill because I thought if I worked really hard to go all the way to the moon and come back here, I waste more fuel because I lose control of the ship for a second. Just wasting fuel everywhere I go. Just waste, waste, waste. I'm the worst pilot ever. Alright, so I'm taking back off again. My guys are freaking out. Ah! I love it. But I figure I've got an okay chance. I've got some fuel. And the nice thing is getting back. All you have to do is hit the planet. I don't have to like land. I don't need fuel to land. I can just let the parachutes do all the work because there's an atmosphere on Kerbal. So I have slim hope here that I might actually return. I pretty much assume this first mission is gonna be a one-way trip and these guys aren't gonna make it back. This is like some Apollo shit I pulled out though. This is like Apollo 13 shit I pull out. I literally am on like skimming the bottom of my tank here. And I'm gonna make 3 maneuvers. This first maneuver just takes me out of the moon's orbit and puts me into Kerbin's orbit, but a really giant Kerbin orbit. If you look, it's a really big one. Okay, so there's my giant Kerbin orbit. I burned almost all of my fuel to get that. And I have just probably maybe 10 seconds of burn left at this point. So I need to be super clever, and this is where I make a trajectory that uses the gravity of the moon to slow me down. Because I'm so far away from Kerbin, that means I'm heading really, really, really fastly around Kerbin. As I get closer, I'll be too fast, and I won't be able to slow down because I don't have enough fuel. So I have to get clever here. And I just happened to notice that the moon was going to intersect my path, so I tweaked my orbit just a tiny amount here with just a little bit of fuel. I actually overdo it and have to burn back the other way. But what I do is I use the Mun gravity to, I'm going to go close to Mun. Its gravity's gonna grab me and swing me back towards Kerbin at a much slower speed, so I can easily enter now. So like, see, look how much tinier my orbit's gonna be after I hit Mun. I'm basically shrinking my orbit by about 5 times because I'm gonna hit Mun right here. This is so cool, right? Okay, so I grab Mun. Mun's gravity's kind of flinging me backwards, and it slows me down, and now I'm in a new orbit around Kerbin, a really tiny one. And now I have about 7 seconds of fuel to burn, and I need a 3-second burn to push my ship so that it goes close enough on the far end of my orbit to hit the atmosphere. So I'm planning. I want to make sure I'm super precise here. I plan very, very, very carefully as possible, like the best position. My ship has to go all the way around the planet. I orbit once, like if you see I'm on the right side there. I'm going to go all the way around the planet and come all the way back out again, because the ideal position to push is way out here. So I'm sure my guys are really sad because they just got within like space station range of the planet, and now they're way back out here again. But it's just physics. This is how it works, right? I've got to use the orbit to my advantage. I have no fuel. I have maybe 7 seconds to burn here. So I burn my 3 seconds to shrink my orbit, and I'm holding my breath. I'm just like, please have enough fuel. I check the fuel. I see it's just a sliver of a hair. I burn, and I cut the engine, and I just stop. And I look, I check the distance, and it's within the atmosphere. It's under 60,000 meters, so I know that I'm going to hit air. So even though it looks like I'm going to orbit, I freak out there. I spin the camera because I'm so happy because I just realized that I'm going to make it back safely. So I'm just turning everything off, acting like an idiot. But yeah, even though it looks like I'm going to continue orbiting, I'm not. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to get so close to the planet that I'm going to hit the atmosphere, and it's going to slow me down. And every second I slow down, my orbit's going to shrink. And what will happen is I just won't ever leave the atmosphere again. So as soon as I hit that atmosphere, it's going to pull me in, and then I can just... so at the very last second here, I'm going to test my engines. I'm going to blast them just to see how much fuel I had left. And I think right here I blast them. Just to see what kind of fuel. I had about 1 second in high time, so maybe 3 seconds in regular time of burn left. 1, 2, 3, yeah. That was it. That was the last of my engines. I just jettisoned there, but the reason I even burned it at all was just to see how much was left. I'm fine. I can't even screw it up at this point because I'm so close now that I didn't have enough fuel to push me back away from the planet. Alright, so now I'm getting closer and closer and closer. Now I'm in the atmosphere, so I deployed the parachutes. If you see, I have 4 parachutes, 3 side mounted and 1 central mounted. I'm really happy I did this. Precaution, right? Overkill. Because I thought, what? But look, if you look closely there, the middle parachute disconnected and went way off into the sky. So good thing I had 4 parachutes. If you look here, it says right there in the middle, it says parachute broke. Okay, there's all my stats to prove I went to the moon. It says, oh, my trip was like 15 days. So my Kerbinets spent 15 days in their little pod and on the moon. And then here's my first attempt. My crash. This was the day before. Same rocket. No adjustments. I also have no monofuel here, but I didn't realize it this one, because this one I tried really quickly. It was like a test of concept to see if my rocket would even work. As you can see, it works quite well. That's how I went back. But if I had noticed in this take that I didn't have any fuel, I just didn't even plan on going back on this attempt. I didn't really even have time. So crashing was kind of an ideal scenario, and boom. Hit the ground way too hard. Alrighty. Level 3 complete. I think I'll go back to the space station now, swap the crew out. Maybe add a power plant or something. I'll take suggestions too.